Hello and welcome to Tennessee Court Talk. I'm your host, Samantha Fisher. Today we are talking tech, court tech. Tennessee is in the process of modernizing the technology used in the state's court system. Well, this may not seem like a big deal because, we all go through technology upgrades from time to time, but this is nothing short of transformational in this state. Why? Because unlike many other states, the Tennessee court system is non-consolidated. So that means we have a fragmented court system across the state. It makes things like case management, data collection, and overall access to justice much more challenging. Joining me today, one of our elected representatives who sits on the Judiciary Committee and is also a lawyer himself, Senator John Stevens.
Good morning.
Senator, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Senator Stevens, as you are well aware, back in 2024, the Tennessee General Assembly passed a law that the Administrative Office of the Courts would create a centralized system for the entire court system. So I want to start with the basics. Why in Tennessee do we need a uniform court technology solution?
It's been a real challenge through the years as we see technology across the private sector make more efficient. But as a legislator, as we are trying to think about, how best to spend state dollars, look for efficiencies in government and how things operate, it's such a challenge to get data and information out of the judicial branch through no fault of their own. It's just we live in a much more antiquated system, paper-based still. If we're looking for, data on local prisons or local jails and who's being held here and what are the charges and trends that are going across the state, all kinds of things that we as legislators, think about, and policymakers trying to fashion good policy for the state and make people safe, which is what they demand of us. It's really hard to get data because it's you have a juvenile system, you have each county does it differently. Each clerk may choose to do it differently than this clerk, and the presiding judge of this judicial district prefers. It's just very difficult. It's been a system that served us well, and there's some positives to it, but also just from a policymaking and efficiency standpoint, as well as we've seen, public safety concerns come out of it as well. It was something that I felt passionately about, that we need to fix this.
Can you tell me more about some of those concerns, those public safety concerns?
Well, and I haven't done a court-appointed criminal case in many years now, but I remember being in, you show up for arraignment day, you've been appointed. You're not entirely clear of what your own client's criminal history is. You certainly don't know if they are out on bond in another county somewhere, or they have a hold on them from Hawkins County. You don't, there's nowhere you can really find out either. It's not like some real quick, you can find out. I know people think this is shocking, but, even criminal defendants aren't real honest with their own attorney. And so
you're kidding.
They're not always, willing to tell you, oh yeah, by the way, you work these charges out. And really, I'm more worried about what I absconded from, or anyway, you're out on bond somewhere and they don't want to tell you that. And so, that's the practical side of it, is the concerns that the defense attorney doesn't know, maybe the DA doesn't know, certainly the circuit or general sessions judge probably doesn't know either. The true what's going on, who is this person? Are they on some kind of crime spree? Are we, so it's really difficult in those circumstances, the public safety side of it, of just who are these people and what are they doing in this courtroom and who else is waiting on them.
That's a great example. I know there are big administrative challenges too, because we hear from judges, especially I'm thinking of circuit court judges who are driving around to different counties. And if you're dealing with paper-based systems and business hours and, suddenly, they've got a case in a different county and maybe can't get a hold of somebody to get the court history, it just becomes, just a lot of time is spent just trying to get the basics, the documents they need, and get up to speed before the case is heard.
Yeah, because, and I know even in the civil side, it's not a big deal, but if you can convince the court to hear you have a schedule, there's something there's going on, let's say it's an adoption and you're trying to get somebody adopted for another purpose, timing wise, maybe a passport, whatever it is. Hey, Judge, can you hear me? Well, I won't be there for 2 weeks in a rural circuit like mine.
Yeah.
We're not going to be in your court for 2 weeks, but judges are great. They'll work with you. They'll say, hey, come over. I'll be in, Benton County or Henry County, Friday. Grab the court file and bring it to me. But I mean, if there were something contested about that, that's probably not going to work, because that means the judge isn't even going to look through the file. They don't even know what's coming.
Yeah.
They're just trying to be accommodating to maybe a set of attorneys, and that's great. They do that all the time. If I were the judge, I'd be very nervous about that. I'm like, I don't want to come in cold on this. I want to look through the file. I want to kind of know what I'm getting into.
Absolutely. You're also an attorney. That's the main job, right? And so from the perspective of an attorney, what have been some of the challenges that you've observed or heard about with our non-consolidated, non-centralized court system and all these different technology platforms going on across the state?
Yeah, I mean, my practice is mainly probate, estate planning type practice. So, it's nothing for me to, if I need to file in Montgomery County, that's great. They have an electronic filing system.
Mm-hmm.
And if I need to file in Rutherford County, that's great. They have an electronic filing. Davidson County, they have an electronic filing system. Shelby County.
Yeah.
The problem is that's 5 passwords.
Right.
That's 5 logins. That's 5 systems that I have to try to understand, or my staff has to try to understand the nuances of how to just file it.
Yeah.
I know in Davidson County, I had a probate matter a few years ago. And under their system, you upload your documents, you're submitting them, you go through it. And at one point, it looked like I owed $287 for just doing it. And then the clerk was like, you don't owe anything for whatever. And I can't remember the details of it because I didn't really understand what it was. And they were like, you don't owe that. You don't owe that. And I was like, I didn't know. I mean, I'm using this system for the first time as an out-of-state or an out-of-county, I don't practice there all the time. That's the difficult part, especially because I'm a solo, essentially, also. And so I can imagine young lawyers who really don't even have staff members trying to navigate on behalf of their clients all these different systems. And I can't imagine if more counties go with an online system, you have 95 separate logins, 95 separate 95 separate vendors and systems, and how you're supposed to upload this way. And I mean, it's just, we can't do that.
Yeah.
There's a bigger concern too that I'm glad to get into. You didn't ask me, but also, I mean, just from not just good government, but nobody's required to hire an attorney for a lot of different things. And so as a citizen, how are you supposed to navigate that?
Right. Pro se litigants who come in and are representing themselves.
Right. I mean, that's hard enough. I don't recommend it. If any pro se's are out there, get you a good lawyer just for, from a private practice standpoint. That's not the way our system is. You can represent yourself if you choose to. The government itself shouldn't be an impediment to that. You shouldn't put your thumb on the scale towards, while a lawyer should be a good thing, you should hire one. It's smart to do it. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. We shouldn't have a system that forces you to.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an access to justice issue as well. Well, you had mentioned much of the district you represent is rural. You're in District 24. What did you hear from judges in your district about this issue that you just described? It's not unified. You have all these different passwords. What are some of the things that they've shared with you?
There is support for an electronic filing system. I think it's the challenge is what the AOC is just seeing is, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. How does that work? I mean, what's that going to look like? I mean, I've always been in favor of, as much as we can, get the federal system, a PACER type system. Mm. One system, one login, one password. Yeah. You learn how to do it. It works. It's available everywhere. Mm-hmm. The documents are available anywhere. That's what I've always thought we should strive to do.
Are you aware of what other states maybe, nearby us are doing and how that, where Tennessee stands in all this?
Yeah, we had a few conversations, especially after it was funded in the budget a few years ago. We've had some conversations with, obviously, the AOC about, y'all started digging in, going, okay, what What's best practice? What do other states do? What do we get into? And so I have a little bit more awareness of, other states that have done it, which is great because you learn from their mistakes, and I'm sure they've made them. And how, it's like building a house.
Yep.
You get into it, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, we really shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
I wish we'd have done that. And so, I'm glad not to be the tip of the spear on this issue. I'm glad to call up our friends in other states. I think North Carolina, maybe. I mean, I'm trying to, from memory, think of who else did it. But, it's good to lean on the court systems of other states that have done it and find out, where they would have put the closet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at the time of this recording, the request for proposals has been issued, and the procurement, it's open to any vendor capable of providing a single solution offering or a partnered solution meeting the requirements. So, Senator Stevens, once a vendor is selected and, the systems are built, and just to back up real quick, the AOC has been working with Gartner Consulting to examine the current state of affairs, the challenges that have been existing, and where we want to get to, and then how we're going to get there, and what kind of systems are going to be the solution that we need. But what do you think? What do you anticipate some of the challenges of statewide implementation might be?
Because we are you have an urban-rural division, always a challenge in a rural area. A lot of people don't understand that some of these offices, your local county, your circuit court clerk isn't under the control of the state. That's a locally elected official who doesn't necessarily answer to anybody in Nashville. They answer to their constituents. And so you always have, people that are used to doing it the way we've always done things, and I don't know why we want to change. And so that's always a challenge. There's not accountability. If somebody refuses to do it our way, how do you make them?
Yeah.
There's that structural challenge within our system. Those are some of the challenges as we've talked about it. That's kind of one of the challenges we've had is just we think this is great, but how's this actually
right? And I get the hesitation. Every time you change jobs, every time every few years you need to adopt and consider a new and better way of doing things because technology is always changing. And I'll just speak personally. The older I get, the less excited I am to go through that process again. But typically, once you're over the hump of it, and you realize, the efficiencies that are created and the ways that it can help you do your job more seamlessly, then it's all good. But getting there, I get it. It's a process.
And one of the things about the initial funding in this was, we essentially came up with a number. We baselined it from other states and what they had at the time they did it. And then, fortunately, working with Brandon Gibson in the governor's office, we wanted to put way more money in this than we thought it would cost because I wanted it to be a situation to where if it is a PACER type system, that's everybody gets it, it's the same one statewide, that it would cover not only the system itself, but also the computer, the training.
Yes.
Everything. I wanted it to be there would be no local cost, so to speak, of implementation. It's going to be, look, since we as a state are forcing this on you, you shouldn't have to have any obligation, local share.
Exactly.
It should be something
it's
that
paid for.
This is what we're doing. We're going to help you in any way, shape, or form we can because it's that important. I really do think from a justice standpoint, it's just that important. It needs to be done well. It needs to be done right. It needs to be functional. And it just needs to serve the taxpayers.
The future state, how do you sort of envision and imagine it as someone who's been involved in, thinking about it, talking about it, procuring the money for it?
I'm excited for it. I'm one having the hardest part is usually the funding. Now, granted, we've all seen the news about Elon Musk. Even with President Trump, you see from the private sector, the way they operate is they know and they understand, and lawyers understand this too. Money is time.
That's right.
And time is money. You have the speed with which you have to do things in order to not run out of money which is we do in government all the time, especially with computer systems. We start them and then they don't work, and you do it over, and it's 5 years later. You have to be as fast as possible with these things, because as the longer it's not done, the less value of money over time. The funding, it goes away.
That's right.
I mean, you don't have enough. I want to do it right, but we also have to do it as fast as possible.
The project is in motion, and we look forward to talking to you more about it as it comes along. So thank you for all your involvement and support, Senator Stevens, and thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad to be able to share at least my thoughts on it and work with the court. They've been a great partner in this. Their team's been great. The court's been very supportive, but it is going to take. It's a big ask. It's a big project. But it's extremely important. You didn't ask me this, and I think we're trying to wrap up, but I was thinking about it. I had a client yesterday. We're trying, in today's world, clients expect, can't you just DocuSign or electronic? Just send me this and we'll file it. They don't even think that, no, I'm going to mail it to you.
Yeah.
You're going to mail it back. I'm going to then mail it to the court to file. I mean, that is horse and buggy.
You're right. People expect on demand, do it online. That is the consumer, and I don't want to say that you're a consumer of the court system, but you understand my point. Yeah, that this is the way people are used to interacting with institutions, agencies, et cetera.
Yeah, you have two different, the civil and the criminal justice systems are two separate systems. They operate very differently, but on the civil side especially, the people involved with that have an expectation that is when they see what it is, they're shocked. They can't believe that I can't just DocuSign and upload, and this should take a day. This should take a half a day. We should have it by the end of the day. And it's like, no, with the mail system now, it's going to take maybe 2 or 3 weeks, especially if it's a large packet in a rural area, or ever. I mean, I don't know how many times in the last 6 weeks or 6 months I've had mail just gone.
Sure.
And then it shows up a year later, it just comes back, returned, undeliverable. And
if this is your first experience interacting with the judiciary, that's not a great experience.
Well, and this is a shock to anybody listening to this, but the court system and lawyers in particular, we don't have all that great a reputation anyway for speed of accomplishing things, and this isn't our fault.
Onward to a better and more technologically advanced solution.
Hopefully, in the near future.
We'll continue to chat. Thank you so much for coming on, Senator Stevens. And if you are listening and you want more information about Tennessee courts, please visit our website, tncourts.gov.